relinquish. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in a world that never seems to pause, where noise follows us into every corner of our lives, relinquish. The art of clearing the mind has never been more important, We live in an age of constant stimulation. Phones buzzing, deadlines approaching, relinquish. Endless streams of information competing for our attention, relinquish. And while technology and modern life offer us convenience, they also create clutter. Mental clutter that weighs us down and prevents us from experiencing peace, relinquish. Clarity and presence. Clearing the mind, therefore, is not a luxury, but a necessity for a balanced and meaningful life. The mind, when burdened by excessive thoughts, becomes restless, anxious, and scattered, It is like a room filled with too much furniture. You cannot move freely, and you cannot see what truly matters. In such a state, decisions are clouded, creativity is stifled, and even joy becomes harder to access, But when we learn to clear the mind, we discover a profound stillness within us, relinquish. This stillness is not empty. It is full of awareness of space, of possibility, relinquish. Clearing the mind begins with awareness, We must first notice how entangled we are with our thoughts. Too often, we believe that we are our thoughts, that the stream of inner dialogue defines who we are. Yet, in truth, thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky. They appear, they shift, and they disappear. We are not the clouds, we are the sky itself, relinquish. The practice of stepping back and witnessing thoughts, without judgment and without clinging, relinquish, allows us to create distance between ourselves and the mental noise, relinquish. Breathing is one of the simplest and most powerful tools we have, The breath anchors us in the present moment and clears away distractions, By focusing on slow, deep breaths, we interrupt the spiral of worry and overthinking, The act of inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly resets our nervous system and brings clarity to the mind, relinquish. This is why so many traditions across the world, from meditation to prayer to mindful movement, begin with the breath, Another way to clear the mind is through silence. In silence, relinquish. The chatter of the world subsides, and we are able to listen inwardly, This silence may come from sitting quietly in nature, relinquish. Walking alone without distractions or practicing meditation, Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of stillness, Within this stillness, the mind naturally unclutters, and what remains is focus, relinquish, balance, and peace. Detachment also plays a vital role. Much of our mental clutter arises from clinging to worries, to regrets, to fears, to outcomes we cannot control. By learning the art of letting go, we release what no longer serves us. This is not avoidance, but wisdom. Relinquish, recognizing that holding on to every thought and every emotion only adds to the burden we carry. Detachment gives us space to experience life more fully and respond to challenges with clarity rather than reactivity. Relinquish. A clear mind is also a creative mind. When the noise quiets down, inspiration arises naturally. Solutions to problems appear, insights surface. Relinquish, and new perspectives reveal themselves. Relinquish. Just as muddy water becomes clear when left undisturbed, the mind too, becomes clear when given space and stillness. Relinquish. This clarity not only enriches our personal well-being, but also enhances how we connect with others. Relinquish. How we work and how we grow. Clearing the mind is not about escaping life, but about engaging with it more deeply. Relinquish. It is about being present enough to appreciate the beauty of this moment, the laughter of a loved one. Relinquish. The taste of a meal, the colors of a sunset. It is about regaining the ability to choose our responses instead of being driven by automatic thoughts and emotions. And most importantly, it is about finding peace within ourselves. Even when the world outside is chaotic. Relinquish. Mental clutter limits clarity because when the mind is constantly filled with unnecessary thoughts. Relinquish. And memories and worries, it becomes difficult to function with balance and focus. Relinquish. Just like a room that is overcrowded with too many objects, where one cannot move freely or see what is important. Relinquish. The same happens within the mind when it holds on to excessive noise. Every unfinished task, every regret, and every fear begins to take up mental space. Leaving little room for creativity, peace, or awareness of the present moment. This kind of clutter creates confusion, weakens decision making. Relinquish, and keeps a person trapped in cycles of overthinking. When the mind is unclear, even simple choices can feel overwhelming, and the natural ability to see solutions becomes clouded. Relinquish. People often mistake constant thinking for productivity. Yet much of that thinking is repetitive and unhelpful. Only adding weight instead of providing clarity. The brain gets caught in loops of what ifs, judgments, and imagined scenarios. Relinquish. None of which bring calm or progress. Relinquish. Clarity comes not from adding more thoughts, but from creating space between them, allowing stillness to surface naturally. A cluttered mind is restless and scattered, jumping from one concern to another, never fully present in the now, while a clear mind is focused, sharp, and light. When clutter is reduced, there is an immediate sense of freedom, as though mental space has been reclaimed, With that space, awareness grows, and with awareness, one begins to see life with greater simplicity. Thoughts still arise, but they no longer dominate or overwhelm, The weight of unnecessary thinking begins to dissolve, and what remains is a grounded presence, a mind capable of understanding what is truly important, and a heart able to experience peace more fully. Awareness is the first step, because without noticing the constant activity of the mind, there can be no change in the way it operates. Many people move through life believing that their thoughts define who they are, unaware that these thoughts are simply patterns passing through consciousness, When a person begins to observe the mind, even for a brief moment, a shift occurs, Instead of being fully absorbed in every worry, judgment, or memory, they begin to see that they have the ability to step back and watch, This act of noticing breaks the cycle of unconscious identification with thoughts. Awareness creates a gap between the thinker and the thought, a space where clarity can begin to emerge. In that gap, one discovers that they are not the endless stream of mental chatter, but the awareness in which those thoughts appear and disappear, This realization is deeply liberating, because it means the mind no longer holds complete control, The process of cultivating awareness can be as simple as pausing during the day to recognize what the mind is doing, Am I worrying about the future, replaying the past, or judging myself and others unnecessarily, Such small questions open the door to mindfulness. The more awareness grows, the less power negative or repetitive thoughts have, Instead of being pulled into every narrative, one can watch with calm detachment, choosing which thoughts deserve attention and which can simply be allowed to pass, Through awareness, the mind begins to slow down and stillness becomes possible. What once seemed like an unstoppable flood of noise reveals itself to be temporary and fleeting, Awareness does not demand force or control. It only requires presence, a willingness to observe without judgment, and allow life to unfold in the moment. Breathing brings presence because the breath is the most natural anchor to the present moment. Relinquish. Unlike thoughts that constantly wander into the past or project into the future, quish. The breath always happens here and now, quish. Paying attention to the rhythm of inhaling and exhaling immediately draws awareness away from mental clutter and grounds it in the body, quish. Each slow and deliberate breath interrupts the spiral of overthinking, relinquish, calming the nervous system and creating a sense of inner balance, quish. The mind cannot be in two places at once, and when focus rests on the breath, quish, it cannot continue running endlessly after worries or distractions, quish. This is why so many ancient traditions and modern mindfulness practices place the breath at the center of awareness, relinquish. For it is a bridge between body and mind, a living reminder of presence, quish. By simply noticing the rise and fall of the chest, or the cool air entering and warm air leaving the nostrils, quish. One returns to a state of simplicity, away from complications of thought, quish. Deep breathing activates the body's relaxation response, quish. Reducing tension and slowing the heart rate, quish, which in turn quiets mental restlessness, relinquish. Even a few minutes of focused breathing can transform stress into calm and replace scattered energy with centered clarity, relinquish. The beauty of breath awareness is that it requires no special tools, quish, no external conditions, only the willingness to pause and connect, quish. It teaches that peace is always accessible, hidden beneath layers of noise, quish, waiting to be uncovered through presence. With practice, relinquish. The breath becomes a constant companion, guiding through challenges, relinquish, reminding in moments of chaos and opening the door to stillness, quish. Every inhale becomes an invitation to receive life fully, quish, and every exhale a release of what no longer needs to be carried. Silence creates stillness because in moments without noise or distraction, relinquish, the mind naturally begins to settle, quish. Modern life surrounds people with constant sound, conversations, notifications, quish, traffic, television, and without realizing it, relinquish. This background noise becomes part of the inner noise as well, quish. When silence is embraced, a different quality of awareness arises, quish. One that allows the deeper layers of the mind to unfold. Sitting quietly in nature, relinquish. Walking alone without music, quish. Or simply pausing to be with oneself open space where thoughts lose their urgency, quish. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of calm, quish. A doorway into clarity that cannot be reached when the mind is always occupied, quish. In silence, one can observe the mind more clearly, relinquish, noticing patterns and letting them drift without attachment, linquish. Just as water becomes clear when undisturbed, quish, the mind too becomes transparent when given silence. Within that stillness, quish, creativity surfaces, intuition awakens, relinquish, and a person reconnects with their inner balance, quish. Silence also creates room for listening, not only to one's own inner voice, but to the subtle details of life, often missed when noise takes over, linquish. The rustle of leaves, the rhythm of the heartbeat, quish. The softness of breath all become reminders of presence. By practicing silence, linquish, people discover that they do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. In fact, quish, life becomes richer and more vivid when the background noise fades, linquish. It is in these pauses that the spirit recharges, worries dissolve, linquish, and the weight of mental clutter lightens, linquish. The more one allows silence into daily life, the more natural stillness becomes, relinquish, until it no longer feels like an escape, but like a return to the essence of being, linquish. A space where clarity is not forced, but simply revealed. Letting go reduces burden because much of the heaviness clinging to what cannot comes from clinging to what cannot be changed or controlled, quish. People often replay past mistakes, hold on to regrets, linquish, or worry about uncertain futures, quish. And each of these attachments creates layers of mental clutter, quish. The act of letting go is not about ignoring responsibilities or avoiding life, but about releasing the grip on thoughts and emotions that no longer serve a purpose, quish. When one learns to loosen this grip, space opens within, quish, and the weight of unnecessary mental baggage begins to dissolve, quish. Letting go teaches acceptance, quish, an acknowledgement that not everything will unfold according to personal desires or expectations, linquish. Instead of resisting reality, there is a softening, linquish, a willingness to meet life as it is, relinquish. This acceptance lightens the mind and clears away the strain that comes from constant resistance, quish. Fear and control often lie at the heart of mental clutter, quish. With the mind trying to predict, manage, quish, or rewrite what is already beyond its reach. By surrendering this constant struggle, quish, peace naturally emerges. Letting go is also an act of trust, quish. Trusting in the flow of life and in one's own ability to respond to whatever arises without needing to hold onto every detail, quish. With practice, letting go becomes liberating rather than frightening, relinquish. For it reveals how much energy was once wasted on holding tightly to thoughts and emotions that only caused suffering, quish. In this openness, clarity grows, quish. When decisions can be made with calm rather than panic, relationships too relinquish. Benefit when attachment to old grievances or unmet expectations is released, quish. Making space for compassion and understanding, quish. The practice of letting go is not a single act, but a continual process, relinquish. A gentle reminder to release what weighs down the mind and return to the simplicity of the present moment. A clear mind unlocks creativity because when the constant noise of unnecessary thoughts subside, relinquish. Space opens for fresh ideas and insights to emerge. The mind, when cluttered, relinquish, becomes like a crowded canvas where nothing new can be painted, quish. But when still and open, it turns into a blank page ready for inspiration, quish. In this state, problem solving becomes natural, quish, as the mind is no longer tangled in repetitive loops, but free to connect ideas in new ways, relinquish. Many breakthroughs in art science relinquish. And daily life have come not during times of stress or overthinking, but in quiet moments when the mind was at ease, quish. Clarity provides the foundation for imagination to flourish, relinquish, as it removes the fog that blocks perspective. When there is stillness, quish, intuition becomes more noticeable, quish, guiding decisions and sparking creativity that feels effortless, quish. A clear mind also allows one to see patterns and opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden under layers of distraction, quish. This does not mean the absence of thought, but the presence of spacious thought, relinquish, where each idea has room to grow without being suffocated by 10 others competing for attention, quish. The energy once consumed by worry and clutter is redirected toward creation and expression, relinquish, making the process feel lighter and more fulfilling, quish. Even small practices that bring clarity, such as meditation, mindful breathing, quish, or time in nature, relinquish, often lead to moments of sudden inspiration and renewed motivation, quish. Creativity thrives not in chaos, but in openness, quish, where the mind is both calm and alert, receptive to the flow of new possibilities, relinquish. A clear mind, therefore, quish, is not only a source of peace, but also a wellspring of innovation, quish, allowing a person to live more fully, contribute more deeply, quish. When express their unique potential with authenticity,